So if you've been thinking about living in Ecuador, this is the video for you. Hey, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if it's your first time. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. We've talked to a lot of people over the last few years. We had our own questions and own research we had to do before moving to Ecuador, and that's the subject of today's video. So we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons of living in Ecuador, the cost of living, and things to consider before moving to Ecuador. For us, for our experience, when we started this journey, we looked into several countries. Those including Panama and Costa Rica. Was there somewhere else?
Africa.
Yeah. We kind of narrowed down our search based on cost and things that we had done with, some of the research that we had looked at, which is what we're going to get into in this video. But you want to start with a base of not just one country you're focusing on. You probably want to take a look at several countries
that meet some of your requirements,
right,
and some of your needs. So
right.
You can narrow it down to 2 to 3 countries. It will be beneficial, and if you can go visit those countries before you make your final decision,
right? Because obviously, if you're here, you're thinking about Ecuador, and if that's on the top of your list, good. But make sure you've explored all your options. And figured out the reason why Ecuador is for you, or possibly not. So of course, the first thing you'll probably start with is a budget. And depending on your lifestyle, that's going to determine your budget. It is very reasonable to live here in Ecuador as a couple under, $2,000 a month. That is extremely reasonable. If the lifestyle that you want to lead is not too extravagant, that budget will be fine. However, if you must have like a place on the beach and the most luxurious apartment or condo or home, then you may end up spending more than that. If you're the type of person that's going to live your life the way you did in the States, whether it be like a car, absolutely full refrigerator and freezer all the time, things like that, kind of excess things that you didn't really need in the States, you may go over that budget. So it just depends on what your budget is. Hey, if your budget is $3,500 a month, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's not even an issue. But if your budget is $1,500 a month, then you're going to have to start looking at what you're spending money on and what are you getting for your money.
Yeah. So you want to know what's going to take up most of your budget.
Yeah.
Usually it's your rent, your food, utilities. If you have to pay for utilities, because you may get a apartment or condo that doesn't require for you to pay utilities, may be included.
Right. If you find that good, chances are you probably have to pay like electricity or something,
or the internet.
Right.
I mean, they may pay for
it. May be,
internet.
it may be included. You never know. It depends on the deal you get with the place that you find. But like we said, because people have fixed incomes and you want to make it stretch as much as possible.
Yeah.
So what you will need to know about Ecuador is that when it comes to renting or even purchasing, negotiation is normal. You can negotiate. Don't always go with the first price given for something, because there's a very good chance that you can bring it down to a much more manageable level.
But if you don't like to negotiate, then you pay whatever they charge. So some people don't like to negotiate, or haggle.
Or here's the other thing. When you're coming from North America, you may not feel the need to negotiate, even if you could, because the price is so reasonable to you in comparison to what you would have paid in United States or Canada or Europe. And you'd say, wow, like $1,400 isn't bad. I've got this great place that will cost me, $5,000 in the States, but that place might only cost you $700 here. So you have to kind of know the market and know when you can negotiate. Just because it's a deal in comparison to the US or Canada doesn't mean it's actually a good deal here. You may actually be able to get it for a lot less. another thing when it comes to budget is obviously food. If you're the type of person that doesn't like to cook and you like to eat out a lot, there are affordable options. But are you the type of person that will eat at the most affordable places on a regular basis? Some people are fine with it. Some people aren't. There are places that will charge you prices that you be used to paying in the U.S.
Yeah.
And places where you can get a meal for $2. What do you want to eat?
Right. You can pay a premium for things you're familiar with, like American style breakfasts. If you want steak and eggs, like if you would get at Texas Roadhouse or a steak place, you can get those things here, but you will pay a premium.
Yeah, and that will eat into your budget. If you eat out 2 times a day, if you pay an average of maybe $10 because of the kind of place you want to eat, that adds up. 2 times a day, 30 days in a month, $10. So what's that? $600. That will eat into your budget. So you really want to basically look at all your options, like going to the store, going to the market, finding inexpensive food to prepare at home, and helps with your budget a lot. We learned. It took us maybe first 6 months we were here.
Yeah, because you want to get it out your system. You
Right.
want to try different things. But if that is a choice that you want to have, where you eat out every day because you don't like to cook or you don't want to cook, you can definitely do that. And if spending $300 eating out is in your budget,
By all means.
that's great.
Yeah. But there are so many ways to save money when it comes to transportation. If you're not going to have a vehicle, if you want to use public transport, taxis and buses. Buses are obviously cheaper than taxis, but you also need to know how much you should be paying for the taxi if you're going to certain places, because there are many places in the country where the taxis don't use the meters.
Yeah.
So it's kind of if you don't have someone helping you, it might be kind of trial and error to try to figure out how much you're supposed to be paying for a certain ride. You may have to go into some Facebook groups or something like that to figure it out. Places like Cuenca have like metered taxis, so it's not as much of an issue. But I know a lot of places in the country don't. So you will get a taxi driver that will try to take advantage of you and charge you 2 or 3 times more than he should.
Yeah.
You just trial and error. You gotta learn these things.
Yeah, it's like you said, trial and error. After you're here for or once you move, you're there for 2 to 3 months, you kind of know.
Yeah.
You kind of get the gist of how far you're going and what it would cost.
Right. And we're assuming that you don't have a vehicle of your own. You could have a bicycle, a scooter like we do. But yeah, if you need to get somewhere pretty far, if you need to carry a lot of groceries, you're going to probably need a taxi or the bus. And you definitely want to know how much those things cost. So next thing you need to consider is research. We've said it 100 times, research. You really can't do enough. You need to know if the country itself is a place that you would want to be. So there are things that are going to be important to you, like healthcare, accommodations, transportation, safety. Those are all things you have to take into account. So do as much research as possible, and don't always assume that the people in the Facebook groups are going to give you an honest opinion. And it might be their honest opinion.
Well, some of them will give you honest opinions, or based on their experience, because that's all they can speak on. When you do your research, also do your research on any issues you may have, like altitude, or like you said, being near a medical facility because you may have some serious health issues that you need to access healthcare very quickly.
Yeah.
And you need a specialist, and you may want to find wherever that specialist is, so you have the medical care you need.
Right. And because you want to be in a town that is able to accommodate your need. You might find a perfect place, but it's in a town that's an hour from every medical service that you could ask for. So that may not work for you.
Yeah.
Researching cities individually is a big help. like we were saying about the Facebook groups, there are people who will tell you the truth, and then there are people who will tell you based on other people's experiences and not their own, and it may be really negative or maybe really positive, and it won't really relate to you until you come here, see it for yourself.
Yeah, you have to put your feet on the ground and get a feel for yourself. Now, like he said, the Facebook groups, they are helpful, but you also need to be able to understand that it's other people's opinion until you get boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And how it applies to you, because what may be fearful, scary to another person may not feel that way to you.
Right.
And you may not see it that way, because everybody's lens, through their eyes, is different.
Yeah. Of course, you can look at the news, but I would say that the news is heavily skewed towards negativity.
Especially in other countries.
Yeah, especially from other countries. So, look at it, but, be cautious of what you see, and don't necessarily think that the entire country is the same as a news story, because that's not always the case. It's almost never the case. There are bad areas. Those are the things you definitely going to want to research. Some areas are worse than others, but it's all relative to what you think is dangerous or bad, or what's a problem. So don't necessarily rely on the news to tell you about the country.
So, and I would my example would be to think about in the U.S. If you live in a state and you're in one city, the city over can be dangerous, but the city you're in, you feel like it's the safest place on earth because you've been there and not much happened. Just think of it that way. You're going to have some cities worse than others, some provinces worse than others.
Yeah. Another thing that you will have to research is weather. The weather is extremely variable in Ecuador. And a lot of people assume incorrectly that because it's on the equator that the entire country is just hot and sunny all the time. That is nowhere near true. There are many cities that are up in the mountains that are nice and cool spring weather all year.
Some get snow.
Some get snow every once in a while. The coast, we're here on the coast, and it is August. Right now it's a little misty outside and cool, and it's going to be like that for another month or two.
It was like 74, 73, something like that. Now when the sun comes out,
it feels a lot warmer, but even this time of year it still isn't hot.
No.
So yeah, it's you can stand outside in direct sunlight here this time of year, and it just doesn't feel that bad. The flip side is when it's summertime here, that sun is extremely strong. You will feel every beam of light from the sun, pretty much anywhere in the country. So just know that weather is something that you have to consider. Also, natural disasters. There aren't any hurricanes and tornadoes here. Well, tornadoes can technically happen anywhere, but it's very rare here. No hurricanes, though. There are earthquakes and volcanoes. And earthquakes are really the biggest issue you're going to have to deal with here, and landslides in the mountainous areas. But as far as, meteorological events, there's not a whole lot going on and for the one half of the country, honestly. The Amazon has its own thing. But as far as the Sierra and the coast, it's really not different from, most other South American places, except for right here on the coast where it doesn't really rain that much. But that is something you want to definitely research, because you may not agree with the weather at all.
Yeah. And there's a lot of coast along Ecuador that you have several options to relocate to.
Yeah, and some are more
developed.
Yeah, and the weather varies among the coastal cities too, which is another thing.
And the infrastructure may be in one area, but not in another.
Yeah, you may have some bumpy roads, and sketchy power.
Yeah, just some things to consider.
Yeah.
But it is a beautiful country, and it gives you many options.
Yeah. The internet is pretty good. Everywhere we've been, the internet's been pretty good. So if you're like a digital nomad or something like that, the internet's fairly reliable. The power issue has been up and down the last couple years. So you just get a battery backup or something. But power is pretty reliable. It's not been that big an issue for us.
Although we don't work.
Oh yeah, we don't work, so it's not nearly the issue that would be for some people.
But if you work remotely, it is a reasonable choice. Or
there's a reason to consider maybe not living here because of power outages that happen every once in a while. If that's something that your job would rely on. Also, when it comes to research, you may want to consider how you are going to shop, because you may not be able to find some of the little creature comforts and items. And for like a guy like me, you can't find the size 12 shoe pretty much anywhere. Now, I haven't looked everywhere, obviously, but pretty much anywhere. Nowhere here in Santa Elena can you find a shoe that size. So those are the kind of things that you're going to have to think about when moving here. Just there are some things you were looking for.
Well, first, go back to you. You may not be able to find tall pants. Now, we run across some tall Ecuadorians.
Yeah, I don't know where they get their clothes from.
But we don't know if they fly to Panama or Miami. But, tall pants, no. Yeah. He can get shirts. He has gotten shirts from here. But, tall pants and anything above a 10.5, you're going to have a issue as a man.
10.5 shoes,
And if you're a woman and you wear 10.5, I think, maybe, I'm not sure, I think anything over 9, you may have a hard time finding a shoe. I don't wear that. I can fall down into a 5.5.
Right.
So 5.5 in boys, and I can wear women's shoes here.
Yeah.
The things that I have, if you are locked, it's very hard to find someone to do your hair, like a loctician here. There are locticians in Venezuela, I think, from what I've heard. But as far as Ecuador,
anybody going way over there?
But as far as Ecuador, I don't know if they have. They're in other provinces like Manta, Cuenca. I do my own hair, so I don't have that issue. Yeah. And I bring my own product that I need for it when I go to the States.
Yeah.
Now, we have come across a beauty salon, a beauty product store that did have some shampoo and conditioners that I used in the U.S. and I was surprised to see it. But it's not the product I would normally use now, but if I needed it, I can go to that beauty supply store.
And to sum all that up, what she's saying is, it's not as readily available as you might want it to be.
So if you get your hair done in the States, don't be expecting to find someone right off the bat to do your hair. So again, if you have locked hair, if someone may tell you they know how to do locked hair, I wouldn't trust it. But if they can show you pictures of your proof that they have done locks, maybe. But I started my own locks and I maintain my own locks, so I'm not very trustworthy to other people doing my hair. So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Also, if you're not locked, I would ask around for someone who can cut your hair, dye your hair, and you like their hair. Like when you're talking to that person and you like their hair, and you can ask, like, who do you recommend? Now, if you walk up to someone and you see their hair and they recommend someone, but you don't like their hair and feel like somebody did a poor job, I wouldn't trust them.
Probably shouldn't have asked to begin with.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So there are, just research is key, because you could find everything else you need here, right? And it's just that one thing that just ruins it. And if it
doesn't ruin
it. No. I'm just saying for some people that, like, if a woman had locks and that was just the most important thing to her, She was able to find everything else that she needed here, but she could not keep her hair maintained here. She might say, you know what, I'm moving to Colombia.
Look, go on YouTube.
Everybody want to do it themselves.
Yeah, everybody doesn't, because it does take a minute, because I have over 100 locks. So.
Yeah. So,
but if it ruins it for you, you may want to just go to Colombia.
Don't just research the things that are actually important to you. Like that is very important. So as we said, you definitely want to explore first. Take a trip to Ecuador if this is where you're considering, the parts of the country that you're most interested in, and also consider the parts of the country that you may not have considered. Like if you just assume that, the high altitude in like Quito or Cuenca would be too much, or it's too cool, give it a shot. Just give it a shot, because you may be surprised at how it actually feels. Now, obviously, if you can't operate because of the altitude, then forget it. But explore, see parts of the country that you're interested in, because being on the ground and seeing it in person is what may convince you yay or nay. It's kind of what convinced us. And, just coming here, being on the ground. So with your exploration and seeing the country, we can speak on the things that are the good things about Ecuador being here. For one, the country, like she said, it's a beautiful country. There's just so much diversity here. There's so much to see. There is decent medical care. It isn't the same as the U.S. Like, if you're expecting the same facilities, you're not going to get that. But the care is good.
Now, in some of the, like in Guayaquil, you can find a great medical facility that's, I would say, similar to the U.S. or better.
Right. But that's just not the norm, everywhere. Like if you think about the U.S., hospitals and clinics are generally the same around the country. But here, depending on the province or the city you're in, it may have less equipment than a bigger place like in Guayaquil or Quito or something like that. But as we're saying that, like, the care itself is really good. Like the medical staff, nurses, doctors, they all seem really good. They really kind of focus in on, if you have an issue, they will focus in on like the root cause of it, as opposed to only giving you medication and saying, all right, come back in a month or whatever. They'll try to actually help you fix the issue, fix the glitch.
Yeah, they have more of a holistic approach.
Yeah.
And visiting doctor offices or clinics, because there are a lot of clinics here, and you may, there are some doctor offices in places you wouldn't think. Yeah. So don't expect when you go into a doctor's office that you're going to see a receptionist.
Yeah.
There may be a receptionist, but it's not what you see in the U.S.
Yeah.
You have a waiting room, and your wait time is not contingent upon the doctor wasting time.
Yeah.
He or she are actually helping patients or assisting patients. And you may be sitting in the waiting room with someone who's about to do a sonogram or lab work. Like, everybody sits in the same area. And you don't have to expect to be there. Well, from my experience, I haven't had to be there longer than an hour.
Yeah, and that's with like having to do kind of a lot of stuff. Typically, like, we don't have to wait longer than, if we're actually waiting for like the doctor, it's usually like 15 minutes.
That's because we got there early.
Right.
So if you have to, they say be there 30 minutes before your appointment. So that gives you time to check in, get your vitals done, and then go to the waiting area to see the doctor.
Yeah.
And by the time you get through all of that, you may be waiting 5 to 10 minutes, just depending on how many people are going through checking in.
Mm-hmm. And that's really mainly for like the hospitals and the public healthcare clinics and stuff, where you're going to need like make an appointment and go in and do all the stuff you need to do. If you're going to see a private doctor, you might not have to wait at all.
No, because he is basically there to see you.
Right. They might be showing up at the same time as you. to see you.
Yeah.
And you get to text them personally, and they'll say, yeah, be here at such and such a time. And if there's a problem, they'll just text you directly. I'll be there in 10 minutes, whatever. That is one of the very good things about being here in Ecuador is the ability to actually talk to a doctor or have them come see you, which they will do.
House calls.
Right. Send a technician to you for lab work sometimes. So it is different in that respect and better, honestly. So in terms of housing, one of the pros is definitely the cost. Cost can be very reasonable. And another pro is that you can get places here fully furnished. You can buy a place fully furnished, you can rent a place fully furnished or unfurnished. And that gives you the option to put whatever you want in there. The con is an unfurnished place may not have AC, it may not have a stove, may not have a refrigerator. The things that you would think should come with the place that isn't furnished, like it may be completely empty, a skeleton. And you may have to get all those things yourself. But the flip side is those units usually cost a lot less per month. So yeah, housing is a huge pro here. The other side of that is that a place that looks good in a picture may look terrible in person. And I'm not sure how they take these pictures, but you'll get in the place and you're like, man, this does not look anything like the picture. And I wouldn't be comfortable living here. You will run into that here. So you absolutely do not rent a place sight unseen. Like, do not agree to rent something before you arrive because it may be completely different than what you saw in the pictures. Another good thing about living here is the food. The food is fantastic. You have to be careful with some of the food that you eat for obvious reasons. You don't want to eat something that may make you sick. Be careful about food you get on the street vendors. Although we've done, I don't know, a few street vendorish foods. We've never gotten sick from those. But obviously you have to be careful with that in any country, honestly. But as far as food, Ecuadorian food it's pretty great. There's a lot of rice and a lot of plantains. So if staying away from starch is your thing, then you might want to be careful with that because you're not going to get a salad with most meals.
A pro that I consider is you really don't have to know Spanish before you move.
It helps.
It helps, but you don't have to know it. You will learn just by gestures, and also having Google Translate definitely helps. But you will start to pick up words while you're here.
Yeah.
And if you are interested in learning, you're going to pick up even more words because you want to learn to speak the language here.
Yeah.
You don't have to know it, but it is helpful to have it or to know it when you come here. But
we barely knew any when we got here. We had practiced a little and took some lessons and stuff, but we definitely weren't coherent in our Spanish whatsoever.
Now, the con side of it is not knowing what's being said. Yeah. And not being a native speaker, being a North American speaking Spanish, they know that you're a gringo. And so you may get charged a higher price because they know that you're not.
You're not from around here.
Especially looking like us. They may think you're Colombian or Panamanian, somewhere else. But
Cuban or something.
If you're white, they're going to automatically know that you're a gringo.
Yeah. You don't want to get gringo. So it is like she's saying, it's a pro that you don't have to know Spanish to come here. But it absolutely is to your benefit to learn as much Spanish as possible before coming here. It has helped you so many ways. Another good thing about living here is just the laid back mentality. Now that can be a pro and a con, honestly, because the people here are pretty laid back. But at the same time, if you're coming from North America, it can be frustrating because if you're expecting something to happen on time It's probably not. If you're expecting someone to do something for you on time, it's probably not going to happen. But it's more of a cultural thing than someone just disrespecting you and disrespecting your time. It's really, we take it that way, but that's just not the way it's really done here. But that laid back mentality just kind of makes life so much chiller.
Relax.
It's just relaxed. It's just a lot more relaxed.
Yeah. And don't, if you, like you said, if you come here expecting things to happen on time, like your landlord said, oh, the maintenance guy will be there at 2.
Today.
He may be there 4, 5:30, 6 o'clock, 7. Yeah. Now he's coming. If he says he's coming, he's coming. It may be 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But he's coming. You've already forgotten about him. And like us, we're like, oh, he canceled, or he's a no-show.
Right.
No, he's going to show. Just not at the time that y'all talked about. But then there are times that they do show up at the time discussed.
Yeah.
It's close to it. It doesn't mean exactly at 2.
Yeah. And we've dealt with a few Ecuadorians that were early.
Yeah. Waiting on me.
Yeah. That was different.
Right. Yeah. So that's a con, but it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not really a bad thing.
Yeah.
We talked about the weather briefly, but that is definitely a pro about Ecuador is the weather in lots of the country. Now there's some parts that are sweltering hot, but for the most part, you can find a comfortable place weather-wise to live in this small country. Here on the coast, like I said, it doesn't get too hot, doesn't get too cold. The mountains spring all year.
You can move around.
Yeah.
When we talk about explore, move around. You can spend 2 years on the coast, a year on the coast, 6 months on the coast, and then go somewhere else and like, oh no, I want to be a little cooler.
Yeah.
You may decide to go to, you may want to go to Cuenca, or I don't know how cold it gets in Quito.
A little bit cooler than Cuenca. Okay. You might want to go to Loja. It's a little bit lower elevation than Cuenca.
Baños?
Baños is near Cuenca. It's kind of rainy. That wouldn't be for us.
Yeah. So you got choices.
Yeah, you got choices. You got plenty of choices. You go out to Amazon if you want. I ain't doing it.
Yeah, you got choices. So just know that explore, take some time to be in different locations just to get a feel for what will meet your needs.
Right. Talking about some of the cons, obviously like the big one is crime. Crime is an issue. It's become more of an issue over the last few years. There's a bunch of reasons behind that. But just talking about it changes the way that you move and the way that you operate on a daily basis. Now, it doesn't have that big of an effect on us, but we understand that it does have a big effect on a lot of people. So you're not going to really want to go outside with a lot of jewelry on. Just, it doesn't really make any sense to have it, because who are we trying to impress? Walking around with your cell phone out, or just having it out just willy-nilly in certain places around at certain times. If it's a place that you would be sketchy about going, or a time that you would be sketchy about doing something in the U.S., it would definitely be sketchy here.
Now, if that's something that you have to do, then Ecuador may not be for you.
Right. Like, if your lifestyle requires you to be out after 8 o'clock every night, yeah, maybe not. That, like I said, that is a con, but we've kind of adjusted to that, where we don't take unnecessary risks. Not to say nothing could happen to us, but we just don't take unnecessary risks, and just minimize our exposure, unless we need to be doing something. But for the most part, we feel pretty safe pretty much everywhere we go. Another con is I don't even want to say instability, but like the corruption and issues with the government officials, transit police, just general corruption throughout the country. It causes problems in so many ways. And that's a whole nother subject, honestly. I don't know. If there's a good side to the corruption, is that you can pretty much get anything done with a little bit of money. But that's also a really bad thing, because everyone can be bought for not a whole lot of money. So like, who can you actually trust? And that's hard to figure out. So that is one of the cons of the country. that is kind of a thing in Central and South America that hopefully gets worked out eventually. But the president is trying to root out as much corruption as possible, but it's almost going to be impossible for him to do that completely. So long term, who knows how long this situation will last in Ecuador. So that is definitely a con. One pro I forgot to mention is the U.S. dollar. The country uses U.S. dollar as its currency, so there's no exchange rate. So it makes things really easy when you're paying for something, or if you're just thinking about money in general. You're not losing anything by coming here with exchange rates. And it's just, if something costs $1, it's $1. You don't have to think about it in your head like how many pesos or something is that? It's just $1.
Now, a con for me is traveling. So what would normally take you about 30 minutes to get to another city, or sometimes like going to another state. So like, for instance, going to DC from Virginia is a straight shot. No problem. Salinas to Manta is like similar to going to DC.
It's not even that far.
But it takes you 5 hours to get there.
Or it's like 4, but it's still a long way.
So you have to, that can be a con. So we have to go from Salinas to Guayaquil to get to the airport. It should only take about 30 minutes.
Maybe a little longer. If it was a straight shot in the U.S., it'd probably be like
45 minutes.
Maybe an hour, because it is like 60 miles or something like that.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. I forgot how many miles it is, but yeah, it would be like an hour straight shot in the U.S., 75 miles an hour.
Who's doing 75?
I'm just saying, because speed limit is like maybe speed limit 65 or something.
70, 65, 70.
Yeah.
It shouldn't take that long, but
it's 2.5 hours from here.
So that can be a con. And also, if you're going somewhere up in the mountains, you're driving through the mountains. Like you said previously, if there's a landslide, a mudslide, that's the only way to get there. Yeah. You may not be getting there.
For that day.
It may be hours later. And depending on how bad it is, it may be days.
It could be days, yeah. Places have been cut off for days at a time.
If you're trying to travel there and you need to travel somewhere and you can't because of a landslide or mudslide, then that's an issue. Yeah. So that is a con.
Yeah. So is Ecuador a good place to live? For us, it has been. And obviously we can only speak for us. It has been a good place to live because 2 reasons. One, we don't work. So that is a definite advantage that we have.
Well, it's a place to live because we decided to move here.
Right.
So we wouldn't have to work.
Exactly. Those things go hand in hand. So it has been a good place for us to live. We enjoy exploring. We enjoy seeing things. We also enjoy just relaxing in this relaxing environment. The climate is great for us. My allergies don't bother me here. There's been so many things about this country that have been really good for us. So for us, we can say it has been a good place to live. Mm-hmm. We understand people come here and have bad experiences, and I get it. If you say that it's not, who are we to argue? Just speaking for us, though, yeah, it has been a good place to live.
We've adjusted very well to living in Ecuador.
Yeah,
we don't have a lot of needs for materialistic things.
Yeah.
Only the things that we actually need.
Yeah.
We may splurge on snacks. Yeah. But as far as clothes and jewelry,
random stuff that materialistic things. No. We kind of gave up a lot of that.
Right.
We didn't. We did give up a lot of that when we left the United States, and we realized how much of that stuff we just never needed to begin with.
Right.
And our adjustment living here hasn't been. I don't want to say it's been drastic. It's been kind of a slow and steady change that I think we notice more when we visit the States. Like we notice that there's things that we just don't do anymore that we would have done every day in the States. We've talked. I'm sorry. We've talked about like the fact that we haven't used a microwave in like 2 years. We got one. We just don't use it. We don't. It's not even plugged up.
Or when we go to the States, we don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
We don't want to drive anywhere. It's like we notice that we have to
Mm-hmm.
drive a lot.
Yeah.
When we're in the States, and living here, we don't have a car. We have a scooter, but we only use that scooter when we need to go somewhere. Like we need to go to the grocery store. We need to go wherever.
Yeah. Or we hop on the bus.
Yeah, but it's with a purpose.
Yeah.
And not just, let's just go take a ride.
Right.
No, we don't do that.
Yeah, there's no joy riding. We don't do any of that.
We spend a lot of time home because we like being home.
Yeah.
And in the U.S., it almost felt like we needed to do something.
Yeah.
Being in the U.S. And also because I think we both work. So we didn't get a lot of time with one another. So we would go on dates and make an effort to leave the house to do something.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that.
Because otherwise you kind of feel like you're wasting your day. If you were off and you didn't do anything, you feel like you wasted the day. Like, oh man, I have to go to work tomorrow. And I didn't do anything on my day off.
Yeah. Now we love fishing because that's something we both like doing. We love going to the movies. Mm-hmm. But we also ate out a lot.
Yeah. Well, not a whole lot in the States. We did. Yeah. We cooked quite a bit, but we would eat out whenever we were out. We would definitely eat out.
We eat out.
Yeah, and that's just something that we've adjusted. It's our life has become. Some people might say it's boring. That's fair, but we have just
learned to love and live with
one another.
Yeah. And we're okay with our lifestyle.
Yeah, we learn to live with less.
Yes.
And it's fine. It's
wonderful.
It's not nearly as scary as it seemed, before we started this journey.
Because you really do think you need all this stuff. Like I needed 3 mixers and 5 blenders. No.
Yeah.
I don't need all that. Coffee machine can only make coffee. But yeah, it's an adjustment, but it's a good adjustment to let us know that we didn't need all those things.
Yeah. We faced a few challenges living here. Obviously, the first one was the language. That was the biggest challenge. And that probably remains our biggest challenge, honestly. Being able to just communicate with people without having to stop, think, or pull out our phone, or ask the person to say something again. Slower, so that we can understand and so that we can respond. And then we respond with what we think is right, but it isn't.
Not always. Sometimes it's right, but because it's been conjugated differently, we're saying the root word more than we should.
Yeah.
But they understand.
We just all wrong, basically. Well, another challenge that we've noticed here is something that we were just talking about, getting around. No, we don't have a car, and yes, that actually saves us from just doing mindless stuff, just riding around for no reason. But we've been in a lot of situations where we're like, man, I wish we had a car. So we could just go do this thing and come back. And, you end up having to like either take a bus to where you're going or get the taxi to wait, get the taxi driver to help, whatever. It becomes a hassle that you have to kind of get used to. And if you're not, I don't know, if you're not open-minded enough, like you may never get used to that. It took us a little while. I don't even want to say it really took us a while to get used to it. I think we didn't have a choice because we didn't have a vehicle. So it is something that every once in a while kind of creeps back in our head when we got to do something, especially when we got to do something multiple days in a row.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're paying for a ride. Right.
It could be in the afternoon, then it's later, or in between.
Yeah. And
you trying to time it correctly.
Yeah, like you got to call for another taxi because the driver that you used that morning, he's busy in the afternoon, so you got to call. Like that is a challenge. That is definitely a challenge. So plan your day well.
Oh, I mean, you definitely can buy a car if that's what you choose.
Yeah.
And because there are many people here with a car.
Yeah.
We just choose not to. Like you said, we go back and forth.
Waffle on it a little bit.
Yeah. But we always talk ourselves out of it because of, we're not going to go anywhere. Yeah. So we just bought a car to sit in the garage.
Right. So yeah, if it becomes necessary, then that's what we'll do. But at this point, it just hasn't been necessary. But that does create a challenge in our life. Oh man, groceries, like, you don't know how bad we want to just like get groceries and put them in our own trunk and just drive home, as opposed to like getting a taxi or whatever. But anyway, we've gotten used to that.
Now, one of the things that may have that has come up recently, and people ask about inflation here in Ecuador. Now, at first, we didn't notice it.
Yeah.
We didn't notice it. It was like, oh, everything's still the same. But going to the grocery store, I have, and he has, noticed some things more expensive, that are more expensive.
Yeah. Now,
that wasn't before. It's not like, oh, it went from $3 to $6. Yeah. It may be now like $3.75 or $4.
Or depending on what it is, it may have gone from $7 to $10. So, because I saw that yesterday. But a couple of items actually went down a little bit for whatever reason. I don't know, like the peanut butter. But yeah, like we have noticed that some prices have changed, and the country did recently change like the VAT, the VAT. So some things are taxed more than they were before, and the fuel subsidy has been, I think, recently eliminated. So fuel costs more now. So of course, certain things are just going to cost more. So it is being noticed. However, I don't know how much it actually affects like the mercados. I'm pretty sure it affects the grocery stores a lot more. But we're not sure how much it affects the mercados because, like, yeah, my eggs recently, they got cheaper. So I don't know.
I think he's a regular now.
So maybe the guy likes me.
He's a regular now, so he's knocked off a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that does happen. If you patronize a person a lot, they will either throw in an extra fruit or two, or go down in the price.
Yeah, or they'll give you like their regular customer price.
He think he getting a regular customer price.
I don't know.
But that is one of the challenges, deciding whether to get a car. Some people never want to ride a bus. You know, that is not their thing. Yeah,
that's your prerogative. If that's not what you want to do, then you'll be paying for taxes, and that can get expensive, especially if you got a lot of stuff to do. That can get very expensive, and we just don't have the budget for it. We don't have the budget for very expensive. Another challenge about moving to Ecuador, is the culture shock aspect of it. There are a lot of things that are done differently here, and it's hard to explain until you get here, because there's so many little situations where it's just culturally different and things are just done a little bit different. I'm actually trying to think of a good example right now, and it's really hard. But
things they do that's different?
Yeah, well, one thing here, and it's not really a culture shock, it's just a difference, is if you go in a restaurant, especially if it's not a busy restaurant, and you eat your food and you're sitting down, you could be there 2 or 3 hours, and they're not going to ask you to leave.
Let's say you're ready to close.
Right, unless they're about to close. Then, they may bring you the check, but you usually have to ask for it.
Yeah, they don't rush. That's going back to they're very relaxed. Yeah. They're not like this.
Yeah. Let's get up, leave.
Like when you're in the US, by time, especially at specific restaurants, that are ready to get that table reoccupied with another client or another patron. They're looking at you need to be here in less than an hour and a half.
You could legit be there 2 hours just talking, and they'll leave you alone. So one thing that happens here is, if you're looking for information, you have to be very specific about what you ask. So let's say I wanted, I show the person at the store a picture of like tahini, right? I say, because I'm looking for chili lime seasoning. Well, for whatever reason, like let's say they don't have tahini, they're not going to take you to the other chili lime seasoning.
No, because that's not what you asked for.
Exactly. This is my point. In the U.S., you might say, hey, look, I'm looking for chili lime seasoning. They might say, hey, we don't have it, but we have this other chili lime seasoning. Like, you won't get that here.
Right.
And it's things like that. Like, let's say you're doing something like, I don't know, you're doing something with ISS, with the medical system, or you got to get a vehicle registered or something. the person you're talking to isn't going to tell you all the stuff you might need for the next person. They're going to say, hey, go to the other person. The other person, you get there and they're like, well, why don't you have this and this and this? Well, I don't know. This told me to come over here. Well, no, you need all these things. Well, who was supposed to tell me this? And that's a cultural thing here. Like when getting our schedules and whatnot. If we didn't have help, like that situation would be really confusing. We wouldn't have known that we need to print out something, go across the street, get a receipt to bring it back into the office. No, there's no one that really explains that. You have to ask. You have to ask specifically.
If you don't live here, you won't know.
You won't know to ask, right. And that's my point. Yeah, is that
you need to be native,
right?
Or have a native person here who would ask that question because they know to ask,
right? Or they just know the system. They just know how it works, and like that information isn't just readily given to you. Like you kind of have to figure things out.
It would be any different if someone came to the U.S. and they didn't know exactly how the system worked.
Well, here's the thing: if you're in the U.S. and let's say you go to DMV, right? Because you need to get a license. You're gonna go to that desk before you get in line, or pull your number or whatever. They're gonna tell you. They're gonna ask you what you want. And they're gonna tell you every form you got to fill out and what you got to have to get it. You may have to go back home, but they're not gonna let you get in line. Go to the counter for that person to tell you that you don't have everything. That's the point I'm making.
Okay.
That's what's different here. So you absolutely need to know and have everything you need if you're doing something here. And you got to be very specific to make sure you have everything you need or that you're going to get whatever it is you're asking for. So yeah, that is one thing that like is a challenge here. The longer you're here, the more you kind of just learn stuff and you know what you need. You know how to ask for things. And it becomes less of an issue the longer you're here. But as far as challenges go, like it's really kind of individual because some things that may be a challenge for you may not be a challenge for other people. Like we were talking about with the vehicle thing, it might not be a challenge for you at all. You're like, I don't care. I take the bus every day. I walk everywhere. I ride a bike. Not a problem at all.
Now another that may be a culture shock to you is a lot of roads are not paved.
Yeah.
So you may be driving and wind up on an unpaved road that has a lot of potholes. So you just got to be aware.
Could be muddy.
And you could be in the city and literally go off and there's no paved road. So that is a norm and something you have to get used to.
Yeah.
Now they are trying to pave a lot of roads, but even if you're going up the mountains or the coast on the highway, you may run into a lot of potholes. You may run into some huge speed bumps.
Yeah,
that would slow
really
you down. Right? Like you would slow down immediately, or your car is going to get messed up.
Yeah, infrastructure that could be a culture shock thing here. The infrastructure isn't what you may be used to, especially away from the bigger cities. So yeah, just kind of be aware that may be something that is shocking to you.
And if you're driving, understand stop signs, as he said. They're just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will run the stop signs.
They don't mean the same thing to everybody.
And there are not a lot of traffic lights. I would say there are traffic lights in certain areas, and then there are no traffic lights. And you need to know one way and two way.
Yeah.
Because you may turn and you're not supposed to turn.
Yeah, pay attention. Pay attention to that una via or doble via. Another culture shock thing is if you're coming from the States and you're a rather tall person, male or female, you will be taller than most of the people you're going to run across here in Ecuador. That's just the nature of things. Chances are you'll be looked at, depending on how tall you are or how different you look. But don't take it the wrong way. It's usually not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
It's not negative.
No. Even my wife, who is isn't a tall person, is taller than a lot of women here. So I don't know how that feels for her because she's not used to that.
I don't even think I see them being the same height as me.
Yeah. You will. Chances are you will stand out, depending on how you look. You may stand out, and it's like I said, for us, it hasn't really been an issue. Most Ecuadorians just assume we speak Spanish. when they see us because they don't know just right off the top. Like I said, we're not flashy or anything, so they assume we're like Colombian or Ecuadorian or something, and we don't mind. We don't mind until they start talking to us, and then they realize, oh, okay, gringos.
And when you're deciding to move to Ecuador, make connections.
Yeah.
Make friends, whether it's on Facebook or just local native Ecuadorians. Make connections, because those connections will definitely be a resource for you.
You will absolutely need their help at some point, especially the locals, Ecuadorians. You will also find expats that are very helpful, especially ones that have been around for a while. They can help you with a lot of stuff, but there are a lot of things that the Ecuadorians are just specialists at that you may need their help. So making as many connections as possible is the best thing, which takes us back to learning Spanish because you're going to need as much of that as possible. One thing, I think LaShawn may have mentioned this before in another video, but WhatsApp. You're going to use WhatsApp here. That's just the thing. Outside the United States, everybody uses WhatsApp. If you have to send a message to an Ecuadorian, you're going to type it in Spanish or whatever, however you're going to translate it. There's a very good possibility they're going to send you a voicemail in reply.
95%.
Yeah. That is
95% chance you started off texting, and then you get a voice message.
Yeah. And you can even tell them in your message that you don't speak Spanish very well. You're going to get a voicemail in reply most of the time.
In Spanish.
So you're like, oh, geez. Okay. Let me translate what this person said, and hopefully translation is correct so that I can type another message.
Let me just say this. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes
a lot of times it's not.
You're like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because I'll switch it just to see what it says in Spanish, then switch it back and have it say what it is in Spanish. Google, I'm like, no, that's now.
Yeah.
That's not.
What you listen to?
No, it got sheep. Like, nobody's talking about any sheep.
Yeah. And then there's different, dialects in the country. The people in the Sierra speak different than the people on the coast. And sometimes Google just doesn't pick it up because they talk so fast. So that was just one thing I wanted to mention, that making connections. Hopefully the person that you make connection with knows that you don't speak fluent Spanish, and they text you instead of send you a voicemail, because that will happen.
Okay, now the final thing, you need to make a timeline for your exit. Make a reasonable, attainable timeline, because you don't want pressure to overcome you and become stressed, and then start having doubt, putting a lot on yourself because you want this done quickly
and perfectly.
Yeah. So, and things are going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a house and you're trying to sell your house, depending on the market, it can sell fast, it can sell slow. You also, depending on when you want to leave your job, how much vacation time you have left over, sick time, you may want to use that up before you leave. If you have kids that are older, spending time with them before you leave. Seeing family members you haven't seen before you leave. All of those things you want to consider in your timeline.
And give yourself enough time to take care of all those things. We were fortunate actually with our timeline that our original timeline was like 2 or 3 years and ended up being a year. That's just how it worked out for us. But we understand that our situation isn't necessarily typical.
But we did schedule out a 3-year timeline to do what we wanted to do. But like you said, things changed and we were able to do it within a year.
Yeah.
So, or a little over a year.
Yeah.
But it is something to consider, and it needs to be a reachable, attainable timeline.
And if I can offer one small suggestion is, don't allow perfection to prevent you from making the move that you've already decided to make. And what I mean is, it's very unlikely that everything will go perfectly. So if you're the type of person that you can't do something until it's perfect, then you may want to rethink the whole situation, because there's a good chance that something isn't going to go perfectly.
Even if you get here, things are not going to go perfectly. Because like with us, there was an issue with flight. If you're planning on bringing stuff, and depending on who you're flying through, airline you're flying through, you may thought you can bring 9 bags, and now you're down to 2.
Yeah.
So, you have to make adjustments. And it's better to not look for perfection. It's better to expect the unexpected.
Yeah. Make backup plans.
If it goes perfectly, wonderful.
Right.
But if it doesn't, it's okay.
Yeah. We had to make a last minute change with a pet. It's one of those things that happens. Fortunately for us, we were able to work it out within 2 days. But we know that, that may not work out for everybody. But just know that, hiccups are going to happen. Don't let the dream go because of, 1 or 2 smaller issues that you can work out. Perfection will keep you from achieving your goal.
Now, let me go back to what he was saying. As far as a pet, if something does happen and you cannot separate from the pet to overcome leaving because you want your pet to go with you, by all means, cancel it.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's more important than moving abroad, so be it.
Yeah.
You stay and do what you need to do with your pet.
Yeah. But yeah, those things happen, last minute. So make sure your timeline, just, work in some leeway into your timeline to where you can take care of any issues that come up. Be realistic, like she was saying. Just be realistic with your timeline.
I think we've covered the things that we think will help you.
Yeah, I don't know.
With your transition, and give you our little tidbits about Ecuador, because we are here.
Yeah, hopefully this helps someone. If you have questions, leave them over there in the comments. And
whichever way
is
quarantine.
If this might be a premiere, so you might be in the chat, or just leave in the comments.
Oh, one other thing. A pro is that you keep your citizenship in the U.S. and you can live in Ecuador. So you can have dual citizenship if you choose to become a citizen in Ecuador.
Yeah.
So that is a pro.
Yep. Hopefully that helps y'all. And, of course, we'll be back. If you like the video, hit the like button, share it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we'll be back soon with as much help as we can give y'all, because we love y'all. Thanks for watching.
Bye.